Hello, welcome everyone to The Distraction. It is Thursday, Fightful.com. I am Jeremy Lambert, joined by the last of a dying breed, Joseph Hulbert. Joe, how are you today?
I was convinced you were going to call me Samoa Joe Hulbert in tribute of our match of the week, but I'm actually very good. I'm excited to discuss the professional wrestling, and that is not sarcasm, folks. I'm actually excited. I had a great week. I'm really good. I've been looking forward to this. Me and Jeremy have been kind of like planning this show for what feels like 8 years. It's actually been 4 days, but man, it feels like we've been talking about it for a long time. So I'm glad to just, let's get all this out of the way. A lot of Twitter conflicts come to a head this evening. A lot of big reviews, double turns, angles to be shot. Let's get to it. I'm excited.
Well, first, we have our major announcement that we're moving to USA Network
Yes.
next week. William Regal, if you paid attention to NXT last night, if you didn't, that's okay. We don't talk about that program. But Regal's big announcement was that The Distraction is replacing NXT Wednesday nights on USA. So everybody can follow us on USA Network starting next week. We will have Johnny Bananas, the true demo god, on the show. Joe Holbert knows nothing about the man, but doesn't matter. He's the man that brings the ratings, and we will defeat NXT in our, well, we're replacing NXT. We will defeat AEW in our first week.
Yeah, I am in fear of getting distracted before we even start this show. Like, was the social media reaction to the NXT major announcement as funny as mine was? Of like, oh, that's it. Okay, I'm never coming back to this show. Thanks a lot, William. You know, like, I don't know what people put on Twitter. I couldn't believe that was it. But we banned that show. Forget it. Let's just leave NXT in the rearview mirror.
I didn't see anyone reacting to it. I just assume everyone is banned at that show, which that's a perfectly curated timeline if just no one is watching NXT.
I agree. I mean, it's a demo play, right, bringing us on, because we represent the future. That's the truth of it. We're here to bring in the young folks, NXT in the past. We are not the heavy metal of podcasting. We're today, we're current, we're ready to go. Next week, live.
I can go ahead and spoil this. We will invade AEW one week. We're going to do it.
Wow.
We have inside sources in AEW, and we will have them on the show while AEW is going on. It will be a distraction invasion of AEW Dynamite one week. Which week? I don't know. Tune in. Find out. Watch us on the USA Network starting next Wednesday at 8 o'clock.
Wow, new boom period coming, folks. This is where the big boys play, huh? Measuring stick just changed around here, folks. We're here with our big mics. Big mic.
Yeah. Let me hold up my microphone. There we go.
Oh, man. That's a big fella. Okay.
We're gonna have Luther walking around us FaceTiming him on Dynamite, just appearing in random matches.
This is the thing we should actually do now. We need to talk to the Japanese deathmatch legend, the original Death Dealer.
Yes.
Original Death Dealer is definitely a better nickname, right? I know the original is Japanese deathmatch legend, but original Death Dealer is like, what a statement that is. The original dealer of death. All death. He's the original. Incredible.
His great nicknames. He's killing it on AEW Dark, our guy Luther. Get him on the regular show. All right, folks, we're talking wrestling today, and we don't have a lot of topics. We just have a lot to dive into with the topics. So we're going to switch things up. 10 minutes on the clock this week, Joseph. We're still going to go over time. We're still going to be all over the place. That's okay. 10 minutes this week. Let's get into it. Let's give the people what they want right off the bat. The Swamp Fight at Extreme Rules. This match was terrible, but for some reason, you liked it. Explain this to me.
I mean, I think there's a pretty logical reason why I have to pretend to like it, which I'll not get into it. But I have put myself in the perfect frame of mind to enjoy these programs now, and I was not going to be fooled this past Sunday night. I was not tuning in to the horror show Extreme Rules starring a swamp fight alongside an eye for an eye match as the co-head billing here, expecting a straight-laced 1985 Crockett program. I knew what I was getting myself into, and I watched it as though it was a Bray Wyatt cinematic masterpiece. I didn't get the issue here, Jeremy, and we're going to get into this, but part of it is that I thought this show was fine, and everyone else seems to think it was the worst show ever, which is like, it caught me way off guard, because I just thought it was exactly what I expected, which sucks, granted, but that's what it is. To me, this match was the John Cena match, but with a character that doesn't have, like, an interesting backstory. So granted, yes, that sounds very, very bad, but, like, conceptually, it's so similar. I was surprised people hated it.
You hated the Cena match, though.
Yes, but that was when I was being a professional and I was like, I like serious wrestling. And what am I doing? It's WWE. It's called the Horror Show Extreme Rules. Grin wide, have fun, get your popcorn. Sister Abigail, wow. Bray Wyatt, The Fiend. It's great. My honest take on this show, and I'm not even doing a bit here. I know people thought I was. Everyone knows the swamp fight wasn't my thing, right? Like, fine. The eye for an eye match was a better wrestling match than it had any right to be. And I will stick by that opinion and refuse
tried
any
to take each other's eyes out with Hurricane Ranas, Joe. Doesn't work like that.
Well, I think a bigger complaint I would have with that match, and we're going to get back to the swamp fight, folks. That's not the end of the angle, but I just wanted to... it seemed to me they were trying to, like, stab each other in the eye more than pull the eye out. Would you agree with that, Jeremy?
Yeah, well, if you stab somebody, like, directly in the eye and it jams in there far enough, when you yank the bit out, the eye will come out.
Got you. You're more experienced than me. I didn't know. But
I saw Santa Slay. I know how this stuff works.
That was good, all things considered. Like, as good as it could be. Banks and Ascot, yes, I understand the gripes there. But Dolph and Drew way over-delivered, right? Come on, that was legit good, I thought.
Dolph and Drew was great. I thought the wrestling on this program was fine. Like, there was nothing wrong with the wrestling. Some of the finishes were terrible. As far as the swamp fight, though, look, I was expecting Bray Wyatt wackiness. I was prepared for it. Just entertain me through it. I didn't find this thing entertaining. Like, that was the issue. You got Bray doing his 20-minute monologue. Cut that in half. It's a much better cinematic masterpiece by the genius of Bray Wyatt. Watching it sober, not good. You convinced me I should watch this match high afterwards. I did that. Much better match in that state of mind. I will say that. If you want to enjoy this match, if you didn't enjoy it, smoke some marijuana, and we can condone that on this show. Why not? Do that. Watch this match, and you'll enjoy it more. I promise you. The Bray Wyatt monologue will seem even longer, but it's a better match that way.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to get our first major bit out of the way, because I agree that's a good way to watch this match. A less effective way is to watch it with your mother. That is not what I would do here, but I told Jeremy, so let me just give it a little bit backstory here. One of my most favourite angles in wrestling history was the ongoing mixed match challenge saga between the Braun Strowman and the Alexa Bliss. Right, it was great fun, lots of laughs to be had. But since then, my mother always confuses Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. She never understands which one was in love with Alexa. So I thought this match would be the perfect match to finally settle that conflict in her mind. Now, I'm sure it weighs heavy on her. So I wanted to settle that for her. And I told Jeremy I would get an official review from a neutral bystander. Unfortunately, this review did not get the kind of content I have 3 notes here. And the first note is initial confusion as I have to explain which one is which. The only insight I got, and it was funny, it was worthwhile, the scene that you're discussing where Bray Wyatt does like the monologue, I think my mum thought like I wanted her to give like a professional review of this thing, and she was like dead serious, just looks at me and goes, Bray Wyatt's a much better actor than Braun Strowman. And I erupted. I was like, yeah, do you think? Braun's like in his chair going, rah, rah. Oh, like he's pulling his arms at the... I was like... I mean, the Sister Abigail deal got like a pretty good pop in the room. I'm sure it got a range of reactions across the world based on what I saw. I thought it was like a legit fun moment. For people that are into the Bray Wyatt lore and the layers, I think it was neat for them to see someone play Sister Abigail. So her final, this is not a joke, her actual review was mildly entertaining, fine. And that was all that was all I got out of a 20-minute watch. So, I mean, that's where I am with it, dude. I think it was fine. I don't agree. I guess I'm with you. I understand your point about it wasn't like super entertaining. But I guess my thing is I never thought it was going to be good. So just like the fact that it made me react at all, I was like, man, good job, Bray. That's where I'm at, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
The Fast and Furious Viking Raiders Street Profits cinematic brawl was so much better than this. So much more entertaining. It had more gags and stuff. This was, like you said, it was Braun playing the role of John Cena, except Braun has like 3-4 years of history behind this character, and he's played pretty much the same. He didn't flip anything. Why didn't he flip anything? This is like Braun's character for like an entire year. We would just like destroy stuff. And the most he does is like set a dude on fire. Like, okay. He should have flipped something. Flip the entire swamp over. I don't care.
that was the worst part of the whole film, was the fire part. That was so embarrassingly bad. When Braun was just standing up laughing, the guy was like, "Oh, I'm on fire, I promise." And Braun was doing like peak wrestler noises and faces throughout the whole thing, all while Bray was trying to be an actual actor. It was... See, my thing is, we talked about this on text, but like, the Street Profits deal was just like, we're being dumb, laugh at us.
Yes.
But I admire that Bray Wyatt like really is trying to make film here. I am sorry. I think it's funny. I think it's good. And I have to apologise. If you watch this show and you love like Twitter threads about Bray Wyatt and the layers, you are right, I am wrong. Okay? Because everyone seems to think Alexa Bliss is actually Sister Abigail. So to which I say, we actually need the Twitter threads. Can you all start making them Twitter threads again? Because apparently wrestling fans have never seen any kind of cinema and take everything as like a literal heel or babyface turn at every moment possible. So that's one thing I had to say.
You said you would be done with Bruce. I think we would ban WWE if Alexa was actually Sister Abigail. Yeah, and now you're just like, it's fine. It's whatever. It's not a big deal.
Because it's psychiatric, Jeremy. He's a magician. He makes you see these things. The question is, is that like part of the show now? Like, does Alexa know that she was seen as Sister Abigail, or are we just seeing what Braun sees? Does that make any sense, what I just asked you?
No, I get what you're saying. Braun's dead, so I have no idea. I have no idea. I do wonder how they're going to follow up with this on SmackDown. If they do, they might not even reference it. But I do wonder if like Alexa Bliss is just going to come out and make any type of reference to this, or if Bray makes any type of... I do wonder how they're going to follow up. Alexa follow-up would be the thing, because Bray and Braun can reference it, fine. But, like, how is Alexa feeling? Is she... Like you said, this is obviously a figment, parts of it were a figment of Braun's imagination. So, like, next time Alexa and Braun run into each other, which I guess would be the funeral, is she standing over his casket and being like, "You should have told me how you really felt. I feel the same way. I could have saved you." Is that what they're going to do here? I think that's where they should go with this, actually.
Because it's like when, when they'll do the bit with Undertaker. I think they did it with Warrior in WCW. Well, like the heel sees the guy in the mirror.
Yeah.
Remember Randy Orton did Taker? Yeah. And then like Michael Cole be like, "What's he looking at?" It's like, well, I can see it. Then it gets confusing. So I would guess that this is one of those deals where no one else on the show saw Alexa Bliss other than us and Braun Strowman. Is what I would guess. I don't know though.
So she just didn't watch the product though. She didn't go home, check out the WWE Network, and be like, "Let me watch this program here," and then, I see myself. Like, it doesn't work like that.
No. And she also didn't retweet 25 photoshops of her sister Abigail. It was someone else. Someone else, I promise. It's not her. Where are you on this scale of me at one end of, "Hey, this show was kind of fun," to everyone else on Twitter, "This is the worst program ever cancelled, WWE Network"? Where were you actually at on the scale here, Jeremy?
I didn't think, like, when it was over, I was disappointed by the cinematic match, because I just thought it would be dumber than it actually was, which is a statement in itself. But I didn't walk away from that show being like, this was a god-awful... Look, I'm not complaining about any 2.5-hour WWE pay-per-view, okay? You can give me any shit you want from this program. If it's over in 2.5 hours, I'm like, great show. Good job, guys. You guys knocked it out of the park. The wrestling was good. The finishes, let's get into it. The Asuka Sasha Banks finish, that sucked.
Yeah.
It was terrible. And I think you said it, like, you expected a bad finish. I did as well. I didn't expect it to be that bad, though. They decided to do, like, 3 different tropes when one would have sufficed.
So, I don't hate the idea, and I know this is what they were going for. But what if, like, the idea was Bayley is going to get Banks the belt while knowing that it wasn't an official win? So, like, she's keeping her happy, basically, while knowing she's the real double champ. If that was the idea... I'm with you. Just do that and don't do everything else they did, right? Like the mist, and then there was something else in there. There was like a pin sequence, a belt shot. I can't even remember everything that happened in this match. It was crazy. It was very 2000 WCW, and I know everyone hates that, don't they? Everyone hates when you say anything. And look, I've watched it. I'm aware that this isn't as bad as that. Generally, this finish was like pure and it was the classic. like who even won? Tune in on Nitro, folks. I said poor Mike Tna. I guess Scott Hudson would be a better frame of reference. But I don't know. It sucked. The match was really good though, and I hate to say it again. I know I sound like I'm whining while I'm being positive, but I am at a point with this like product where I basically watch it as like exhibition matches. And as someone that doesn't care who wins and loses, like I legitimately am just like, oh, bad finish. I just wipe my hands. If you're not like that, I totally get it. Why it would annoy you that you got excited for a match that had no finish. Didn't even have a winner.
Yeah.
But for me, like, it was just a little bit worse than I expected. I mean, a lot worse, but I expected it to be bad anyway. And the match was great, so I'll kind of just take it. I know it sounds sad, Jeremy, but that's where I'm at this point. I just took it and was like, it was a good match. I'll take the win.
I'm in a similar boat of like, okay, I know what to expect from these WWE shows. I don't go in there thinking like, all right, I'm going to get pure pro wrestling here, winners and losers, babyface and heels. Like especially on a show called The Horror Show at Extreme Rules, like you should just, they gave up on this show and lowered the expectations when they added that tagline to it. My thing is just like, I don't like getting invested in a good match. It's the same thing we were talking about with these evil matches. Like, don't give me, this wasn't 40 minutes, but like, don't give me like 40 minutes of something and just do nonsense. Like, this was an actual good match for 15, 20 minutes. And then they just did nonsense. It's like, all right, I just don't have the capacity to care about this stuff. Banks doesn't know if she won. I guess they're going to do the rematch on Raw. Cool. I'm sure it'll be good. I still don't know if we're going to get a real finish on that show either. It seems like they're delaying the Sasha and Bayley stuff, which is what I predicted. I thought that Banks would win this match and she would just be a double champion and they would delay it as long as possible because they want an audience for this thing. If this is how they're going to delay it, though, with all this stuff, just get it over with. I know there's no audience. Just get it over with, though. Go in the direction you had originally planned, and don't try to cater to an audience that isn't there because you don't know when they're going to come back. So just do what you were going to do initially.
It's tough because, like, I feel like they've left it almost too late now. This sounds so ridiculous, I know, because they've been going for 10 years doing this feud, but like it almost feels like they need something catastrophic to split them up now because they're so like obnoxiously tight. Because before WrestleMania, there was cracks there, right? Like there was an issue, and that's kind of gone. So unless the finish of the Raw match is that Bayley gets Sasha disqualified and costs her the match, because if she gets involved, it's a DQ and Asuka wins the belt, right? Or keeps the belt, no idea. But if that's the finish, you could still do SummerSlam, but I don't know, man. I feel like they're going to WrestleMania with this thing. I just don't know how they're going to do that if Asuka and Banks' last match is Monday. Because it feels like Shayna's going to get the SummerSlam match now. So, it's good. Look, I'll say this much. It's interesting. For what I like about wrestling, I enjoy the like moving pieces where everything's going to go and fall. It's interesting in that sense. But, man, I hope they have an idea of when they're doing this, because otherwise it's going to be a whole lot of delaying with bad finishes. Yeah, I tend to agree.
They don't have an idea. Yeah. What'd you make of the eye for an eye match? Great match. I was disappointed that I thought it was going to be cinematic. I was looking forward to it being cinematic, and I was just really looking forward to, like, somebody legitimately just getting their eyeball, like, ripped out CGI style. And so that was disappointing when Ray is just holding, a gummy in his hand.
It's just like, I don't know, man. It's one of those deals where I find myself praising. I'm like, oh man, that was as good an eye for an eye match as you can have. And I was like, why am I crediting them? They put themselves in this corner. By the way, credit to them. Every time I think they have like a new level of babyface loser level, it's like, boom. Like, Rey Mysterio asked for a match in which you have to pull the other man's eye out and actually has his eye fall out of his head. Like, wow. That is an incredible amount of loser. So, but Rey is amazing. In all seriousness, as much as we discuss creative, and I have not watched one segment of this program of Seth Rollins, as someone that watched the match, I find it to be, like, legitimately frightening how good Rey still is, right? Like, he is a full time machine example. And he's been this way since he came back. So, it was cool to watch Rey be Ray again. I mean, it's a shame his eyeball fell out at the end of the match, really, because I'd like to see him
save it. They can save it.
They could, yeah.
Yeah.
What was the term, Jeremy? Do you remember the medical term for what they said?
Oh, it's like global displacement or something.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that's legitimately, it's something weird like that. But, even though the eye was like dangling, or not it wasn't dangling, I guess. I don't know how you save it. It was just there in his hand. But I guess it was still attached. I don't know how eyes work. I'm not an optometrist. But I guess it was still attached. Seth was freaked out. He puked. He was so scared of this that he had to, throw up. Again, if you're going to do something wacky like this, just go over the top with it. Don't give me this guy laying there with the fake eye in his hand. Like, actually do a CGI and rip it out. Because that's what I don't know how you can say I saved his eye after that. I still like your idea that Dom does an eye transplant and then Dominic has to wrestle his whole career with an eye patch.
That would be awesome. That'd be so great. This was my criticism all along. He's like, I kept being told, it's fun, go with the dumb stuff. And I'm like, but the angle itself doesn't appear to be fun at all. It's like a very serious actual angle about eyeballs. And it was played out that way. They did the match very seriously. The referee was checking to make sure the eyes were intact at all times. I don't know, man. And then Seth puked, and the next night he did like another 25-minute promo where he talked real slow about being a messiah, about extracting someone's eyeball. I don't know, I don't listen. So it was as good as it was ever going to be, and I could say that for a handful of matches on this show. How, by the way, does a company have a finish as good as Dolph and Drew, one match after a finish as bad as Banks Asuka, right? How do they make that balance work? Because the finish to Dolph and Drew is an all-time finish. It was tremendous.
The finish was so good, they decided to do the match again, but now Drew gets to pick the stipulation.
How is this interesting to anyone? Like,
I don't know.
Dolph just had every advantage and lost, and it's like, oh man, he'll get him next time. When Drew gets the pick, it's a lock for Dolph. I think they're going to go Iron Man, Jeremy. Are you ready for them to do a 30-minute Iron Man on Raw? Are you ready?
Oh, I could actually see that. And no, I'm not ready for that at all. I don't want this at all. No, this is a bad idea. Don't put that out there. They steal all of our ideas. Don't put that out there.
Look, I'll never watch it, so that's fine. But I have to say, it's a running bit I do. Seriously, guys. Dolph's real good, man. Dolph is real good. And that guy, bless his cotton socks, he was out there working. The energy of that man. How does he still care? I wouldn't care. I don't care, in fact, and I only have to watch the matches. So, just amazing. I think Drew has actually done a great job of, like, his matches do feel different. And that's all you can do as a world champ. Like, they've all been physical and full of energy and like, aggression, intensity. It's just been good. So hopefully everyone's happy when Randy Orton takes belt off him.
I imagine they're setting up the Orton and Drew feud next week because you had to delay that a week so Orton could punt kick the Big Show because that was very necessary. Anything else from Extreme Rules? I don't remember what else was on this program.
How do you feel about the Kabuki Warriors and Alexa and Nikki now being like best friends? And they have managed to break the timeline of quarantine shows now. They are now actually rewriting history from within the PC because I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure they had a WrestleMania match 3 months ago at PC.
Yeah.
And they were like great friends. Nikki, Alexa, I was like, what is happening? What is this show?
Sasha and Bailey are so annoying that they just came together. That's what it was.
I'm actually with
it.
that.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I'm with that. Nikki's turning heel, right? Do you agree with this?
It seems like it. It seems like, one of them is definitely turning. Maybe what if they do the full bore Alexa Bliss, Sister Abigail, and that's the heel turn?
Bad. I think that backstage segment on SmackDown last week where Nikki was like talking about, she kind of hinted, she's like, we're different. Like, I don't get the opportunities you do. That could be such a good reason to turn. Because I guess the idea would be Alexa just doesn't even realise the fact that the team is all about her, right? Like, Nikki is tremendous at wrestling television.
Yes.
The match with Bailey was quite good too. It's hard. A lot of these Bailey matches, it's through no fault of her own, but like they're all kind of capped at a certain point, Like, they turn up to every pay-per-view and they're like, okay, it ain't the night for this match to steal the show. 12 minutes, just a fine match. And that's what it is. Unfortunately, she hasn't had a chance yet with the right opponent, the right time, and the right angle to be like, okay, Bayley, steal the show. Hopefully she gets that, because she has been champ now, Jeremy, for 25 years.
Just wait until the Sasha Banks match. That's when she will 100% steal the show at WrestleMania 39 in front of fans. So
8 minutes with a DQ finish.
Last night on AEW television, as first scooped by Joe Hulbert here on The Distraction and on social media, Eddie Kingston showed up to answer Cody's open challenge. Joe, tell us all about your big scoop.
Yeah, I was way ahead of this. I found out about the Edward Kingston from a friend. I have many allies in this industry. It was not Luther, please don't fire him. And I posted a promo clip of the Eddie Kingston, which did better than anything I've ever done in my life. And it was just, I didn't write anything. It was
he
just Eddie
retweeted it, didn't he?
Probably. Everyone did. By the end of the day, it was like list of the greatest wrestlers on earth retweeting Joe Hulbert with quote tweets. I just stole a video from someone. I don't know what happened. Anyway, it made me like a scoopster. I am a scoopster, obviously, it's well known. I had a really good week. Last week, I enjoyed wrestling a lot. Slammiversary was great. We'll get into that. And obviously, I didn't hate Extreme Rules. And I was like, man, if Eddie Kingston comes out on Dynamite, it's going to be such a great moment. Boy, oh boy, was it awesome. Hearing that voice, seeing the man, it's just... Eddie Kingston he seems to have impacted a lot of people. He's impacted me a lot. I remember last year, I was done. I didn't want to write about wrestling. I was finished, bored. And I saw a video of him kind of explaining his motivation to avoid retirement, where he was talking about, I couldn't tell the story as he would, but basically it's a very cool personal story about what motivated him to stay in the game. And it was it motivated me, he's a very kind of inspiring talker. You believe Eddie Kingston. And I can only speak for myself, but I think if you look at social media last night, there's a lot of people that believe in Eddie Kingston, right? They care about him. So of all the moments I can recall in the last year of wrestling, this is the one that made me most happy. Because the best thing about Eddie Kingston is, it isn't a deal of oh, I like that guy, I hope he does well on the big stage. I have no concerns about that dude's performance. I know his promo is going to be great. I know his match is going to be great. It was just seeing him there. It was as soon as he got the ticket, it was done. So... awesome moment, awesome promo. The match was great too. It was so... he was such a good fit for Cody, I thought. He allowed Cody to just forget all the other nonsense and the smoke and mirrors and just have a match. Hard-hitting and physical, and it was great. So, yes, the AEW... I'm now Team AEW again, Jeremy. I've requested a trade.
You have switched teams. You have switched teams 3 times in the last week.
I have. Assuming Eddie Kingston gets a contract... I am Team AEW now. Let's go King Kong. That's what I'm saying. That's where I'm at.
It was great to see Eddie Kingston there. Yeah. They hyped up top independent wrestler. Hardcore fans will appreciate it. A lot of speculation on who it could be. I was very happy that it was Eddie Kingston. I remember watching this guy in ROH in 05, 06 when he was doing the Last of the Dying Breed stuff. And I was like, this is so good. This is so good. And this was 15 years ago. It's this promo work is amazing. And obviously he's been on the independent scene. He's been around forever since then. His stint with Impact, at this point, doesn't get enough love because I tweeted this last night. Get Santana and Ortiz away from Jericho. Put him with Eddie Kingston. And just have him, murder people. Legitimately murder people. I don't care. Just have him murder people. Because his stint with Impact was outstanding, but I think it got overlooked because LAX was so good in that as well. Kingston's been doing this for a long time at a very high level, and it was great to see him on that national stage because there are very few guys who can talk like him and just make you believe the things he was saying. The stuff he was saying last night to Cody, to Arn, this... I'm ready to see this fight right now. And they gave it to us. And bless Cody, he took a tack bump, which I did not expect. He took a power bomb onto tacks. Cody did.
Insane.
Cody is he's working his ass off as the TNT champion, and bless him for that. But this was a great moment it really was. Jon Moxley promised hardcore fans are going to love this. And based on the timeline, sign Eddie Kingston trending, pretty sure hardcore fans love this.
Yeah, and by the way, if someone just watched Dynamite, the post-match promo that he did on their like Twitter gimmick, AEW, is way better than the pre-match promo. And the pre-match promo is amazing. The post-match promo is like the best. I'll call it acting. I don't know how much acting was going on, but it was about as real and believable as wrestling gets. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for like AEW's roster's big enough. You can always find a place for Eddie Kingston, right? Like that guy, you just said it. Like he's an all-time promo guy. So on a show that I think one of its biggest strengths is the interviews, because they have guys that can talk and they allow them to just talk, Eddie can be like the crown jewel of that. So hopefully they figure out something. I'm with you, man. Him doing a thing where he's like, just can't believe what's happened to Santana and Ortiz, right? Like he can't, proud and powerful. That was their whole thing. And now they are like, you know, goofing around with Chris. That could be wonderful. Because the thing with Eddie is he's a great heel because he can be so sinister and like mean, but he's very naturally likable. So I'd actually kind of be interested in him turning Santana and Ortiz, you know, and like kind of restoring them to their roots almost. That could be fun. So whatever. Actually, I don't care. Just sign the man, please. Can we do the right thing here? I don't have to request another trade. Can we just sign the man and celebrate, and I'll stay on the team for a while? That's all I want. But yeah, awesome moment.
Dynamite was really good last night, I thought. Mm-hmm. The first hour especially. Amazing. The segment with Moxley, Darby, Ricky Starks, Brian Cage was very good. Hangman Page, always awesome in his role, but I thought the first hour was excellent. Yeah. Ricky killed Darby Allin.
Oh my God.
That was scary. I felt bad for Darby Allin.
I know that we sound like biased because he's been on the podcast, but credit to Ricky Starks for like trying to actually dress and act like a star on television. I know that sounds like I'm being like, I'm taking a shot. This is genuine praise. Like, wrestlers now just wear their wrestler shirt, right? Yeah. All these guys, they come out, like, they have their cool wrestling shirt, cool, sell shirts, fine. Ricky Starks is not into that. He's going to look like a star on television, even if he's killing guys, you know, brawl angle. He doesn't care. So he looked tremendous. I don't know if I love the Taz thing, but I will give it time because I like Ricky Starks. The other thing that we need to talk about, arguably the best segment in the history of wrestling, Lance Archer just murdering him. Jake Roberts just like coolly speaking while he just like threw men through the roof and stuff was amazing. It was all, the only thing is, and I like Lance Archer, but the weakest part of it was when he had to start, like, he did his catchphrase into the mic, or whatever he did when he was just breathing heavily into the microphone. Before, when he was just throwing men into the roof, oh my, that was different level. That was a lot of fun too.
I thought the greatest segment was Britt Baker just yelling at Reba and Tony Schiavone for being an asshole.
We need to talk about this. So, was that a reference to that episode we did 25 years ago when this show started, when they wrote, WWE did an article? What was the article, Jeremy? Help me.
Sasha Banks is the Michael Jordan. And this, I believe this was our first episode, the first episode of The Distraction. We had this to talk about. And someone from WWE.com wrote, I think he's on the bump, always praising Sasha. He's like, oh yeah, Sasha Banks, like this is her Michael Jordan run. And he had like this whole thing mapped out through WrestleMania. Like he was a little off. Sasha Banks is doing great right now. Through WrestleMania, her run sucked. Just there wasn't much there. But yeah, that was one of our. But yeah, I think it was a reference to. We know Britt watches the show. Big fan of The Distraction, as everyone is, and you know it takes people time to catch these references. But she was like, you know, let me throw that in there for those long time, those first down since day one ish Distraction viewers will get it.
Wow, I'm glad you said that. I never would. Yeah, no, that was nice of her. It's always nice when Britt remembers the little people in this. I mean, we're not little, but...
I mean, we're going to be up against her next week. We're going to be...
Wow, we're going to take shots.
Not Britt. No, we have too much respect for Britt. The rest of them, sure. But Britt, we have a lot of respect for.
Was the actual, like, full line, I am Michael Jordan, or did I imagine? That was the exact line. She looked directly at the camera. AEW's got some promos on their show. I mean... Obviously, like Taz, you kind of know Taz is going to be a good promo. Britt Baker has become a great promo in legitimately about 6 months of TV time. She's just turned the whole way around. So, yeah, she's awesome. They need her back in the ring, though, because it helps the division so much.
Well, they're doing a tag team tournament, even though they don't have an actual tag team division.
Yeah.
I don't get this.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know, man. They certainly don't need tag belts right now. We agree on that,
No.
right?
They can barely book the singles title. Like she's doing like an open challenge bit, but it's not a real open challenge. You got Diamante and Ivelisse just wrestling, and Diamante wins, and now she gets a non-title match against Shida. They haven't booked the women's division well. It's been an issue. Look, they've had trouble. I know COVID has stopped people from traveling. I know Britt got injured, which was a big blow, but the people and Chris Statlander got injured as well. They've had some tough luck with the division. That's undeniable. But if you have enough people to create this 16 women tournament, or yes, there's 16 women, 8 teams, then you can do something with these women. And they just don't do anything.
I know this sounds silly, and I'm not really educated enough to like make it of like a in fact statement. Sometimes I think they are like too desperate trying to find women, and they need to just like pick, okay, who is our actual core group? Because Diamante is actually like really good, and I'm pretty sure she's been on AEW before, right? On Dark anyway. So she's been around.
Yeah.
But why? What was the delay in waiting for her to just do a cold match here with Ivelisse? Like why? Just pick someone and do something with them on TV. Because unfortunately, what happens is none of them have any like backstory really. So you end up with just a bunch of cold matches, you know?
Well, I think they tried. I think they did have people picked, and I think it was Nyla, Shida, Statlander, and Baker. And unfortunately,
that's tough.
Yeah, two of those women got hurt and were out for months. But like Nyla's still around. Shida's your champion. They heat up Penelope Ford for a bit, and like that was a good match. But I don't think many people believed. Yeah, she's just disappeared. They've just. Big Swole, I know she's doing this angle with Britt, but like, can she not wrestle and get some wins in the meantime? Instead, they just got her suspended and off of television. Like, they have women. It's just, and you mentioned Diamante, like, just heat her up for a little bit. You know, they're going to throw her in there, the match with Shida. Maybe she wins. What happened to Abaddon? She comes in, squashes Anna Jay, and people are like, this person's awesome. And then she's not on television. Again, maybe she's on Dark. I don't know. I don't really watch that program, but they have women. I don't think the thing is, yes, they've been hit with injuries, they've been hit with COVID. They have women available. They just don't do anything with them.
Yeah, that you kind of explained my point a lot better than I did. That's what I meant was like they're so busy trying different women that they need to like just tell some stories coherently.
Right.
You know, like if Penelope Ford has a show-stealing performance out of nowhere, don't just be like, okay, cool, but we need to do this cold match with Diamante, who was a good match. I have no issue. I'm just saying, go with Penelope Ford. Tell us more about Penelope Ford. Do more matches. Have her win matches. Don't be constantly like they're trying to share it almost too much. And the issue right now with 2 hours of TV, it seems obvious to me they're only going to give the women like one match, one segment, basically, roughly, right?
Yeah.
In that situation, unfortunately, the best way to do it would just be like, forget the rest. This build had sank the foundations. Now, I agree with you. They got hurt by a circumstance, clearly. But just generally speaking, like they could do more with Shida, like you said. But character-wise and story-wise, I don't want it to be a cartoon character by any means, but just give us a little bit more about her because she is the champ. I don't want her to just be in the crowd being like just another woman watching the matches, you know? So it's just little things they can do. I am patient with it. I think there is something to be said for like the talent pool is very different. There's a lot less TV prepared women. I just wish they were more decisive and being like, okay, we've got something Penelope, move that way. Rather than just everyone's getting their own little part of it. And what happens is no one gets over almost, is my fear.
This tag team tournament, people are like, oh, well, they get a trophy at the end of it. Cool. There's no division, Joe. There's no official rankings. When they do their official rankings every Wednesday, they don't have, I rank the women tag team higher than they do, because when I do my weekly power rankings, Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, so they'll be out now by the time you listen to this, I group them match by match. So if women tag teams, which they do all the time on Dynamite, they just do these random women's tag team matches to get more women on television. And I think that's the point of this thing as well. Like, there's no actual division, though, and there shouldn't be, because they apparently don't have enough women, but I'm sure the tournament will be good. You'll get some solid matches. People will be like, oh, look at all you're showcasing all these women. Like, great, showcase them by giving them an actual story. Like, that's how you can showcase them.
Yeah, and that will be the big test, will be by the end of the tournament, forget the trophy and all that nonsense, how many stories will be left that we're actually interested in following, right?
Yes.
Like how many teams have some kind of conflict? Obviously, you don't want to do that too often, but just what I mean is what's left when it's all done, or is it just literally away at field TV time?
Yeah.
We'll find out, I guess.
Slammiversary was on Saturday. Big show. Impact had a lot of teases, surprises, returns. Joe, you were Team Impact on Saturday before you requested a trade to WWE on Sunday and then requested another trade to All Elite Wrestling on Wednesday. Yeah. But during your time for Team Impact, what was the feeling with Slammiversary?
Man, all I could think was, boy, can Scott Steiner coach. Man, we was out there. We had guys I'd never even heard of. They were hitting threes in the corner. It was running wild. We had the ball in the machine gun's hands. We were flying. I don't know why I left, to be honest with you. I just got excited about the Sister Abigail speculation. But, you know, it was really neat, Jeremy, to see Impact Wrestling have all that hype and not, from what I can tell, like they didn't burn anyone. It seemed like everyone was pretty happy with the show. I sensed some people kind of lacked perspective on Eric Young. Because while we said like he was a lock and it wasn't really a big surprise, Eric Young kind of is TNA royalty, right? Like he did a lot in TNA, 101 characters, it got them all over. So he looked great, by the way. Slammiversary was a good show. Their roster is just, I mean, I understand people can say, oh, these guys were losers on WWE or whatever. Like that never has mattered to me. But just beyond that, like you've got 6 guys with TV polish and kind of established. It just helps everyone. So a good week for Impact, it's fair to say.
Outside of your trade request, yes, it was a good week for Impact. I thought Slammiversary was a good show. Motor City Machine Guns returning was spectacular. Great to see them back. And then they won the titles on Tuesday. Chris Sabin, even though he hadn't wrestled in a year, still looked awesome. Alex Shelley is in that like Roderick Strong position of like, we forget how good these guys are and how good they've been for a very long time. And like when we look back at history on this stuff, yeah, okay, maybe they never had this big WWE run, but we're gonna be like, those guys just had great matches everywhere they went for 20 years.
Yeah, I really think they kind of obviously the Young Bucks, amazing, but like I kind of feel like they shaped what we see so many teams do now.
Yes.
They didn't invent tandem offense, obviously, but they were so innovative and everything they did was so sharp and crisp and it was interconnected. And I think a lot of teams would love to be as good at them as that. Still, to this day, they would slot it straight back in. Their match with the North on Impact was actually very good too. The show itself, as someone that was totally blind, didn't know what he was getting himself into. I didn't know 2 of the guys in the main event. Wasn't familiar with them. TNA has talent, right? Like it's not. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's like an all-star roster. But, especially after this week, it's a lot stronger, and they seem to have a solid direction for everyone. You know, like you got the Eric Young, Rich Swann thing looming. Eric's going to do some stuff with Eddie for a while. The Gallows and Anderson versus Ace Austin and the man that used to be called Sawyer Fulton. What is that gentleman's name now, Jeremy? Do we know?
Madman Fulton.
Actually, much better. Fair play. I'm with that. So everything seems to be shown. I'm just happy for them because, in fairness, like the show isn't all for me, even now. But Don Callis and Scott Steiner have done a great job, like rebuilding the image of that brand. You got to say, right? I think he's said this in interviews, but they are kind of like the modern, in the industry now, in the landscape, they're the modern take on ECW. Not stylistically, perhaps, but just in the sense that they're a great place to be creative, get the stink off you that you just left a major promotion with, and kind of like feel like a star again. I mean, look at Gallows and Anderson. They're being treated like they are like the biggest stars in wrestling. And that's cool. Good for them. They deserve that. So a good week for Impact. I enjoyed both of their shows, which I haven't watched one for a long time. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought both shows were good. My issue is, and this can't be helped, like these empty arenas, it just made it feel so much lower rent than obviously it would have if it's in front of a crowd. And like I don't know if wrestlers being around ringside, some type of ambience would help that. I think it would to an extent. Obviously, you're not going to get the genuine live crowd reaction if it's wrestlers out there. But man, like when Motor City Machine Guns won the titles and when Gallows and Anderson came out just to nothing, I felt bad for
It's
all,
tough.
like, they just came out to nothing. It's like, you want these to be like this big deal, and it is. It is a big deal to get these wrestlers to have these title changes and stuff. But when there's literally no reaction to it, it just doesn't feel like a big deal. That's not their fault. Look, they can't help this pandemic, but
Yeah.
I don't know what they can do, whether it's putting not fans, but like wrestlers, staff workers, whatever it might be, around the ring to kind of just create some noise for it.
Yeah, the one that I thought was hurt most was EC3.
Yeah.
Because they were doing like an angle where it was like, when is he going to show up? And because of that, they didn't like play his music or anything. He just appeared behind Moose, right? And like, normally when you do that kind of angle, there's the suspense of the audience sees the guy and the heel doesn't.
Right.
Obviously, there is none of that. There is just Josh Matthews being like, oh my God, it's EC3. Oh my God, it doesn't work here, EC3. Like, it just was so flat. And even someone that loves EC3 was excited for it. It was like, I can only be so excited for this. Because at least the other ones, as much as they were flat, they were masked by like the guy doing his entrance, and they could kind of play it off like it's fine. EC3 was an angle shot for like live excitement, and there was none to be had. So, yeah, it's tough. I mean, it limits them obviously, but then at the same time, in fear of kind of dismissing the good work they've done, one of their biggest strengths right now is that they're still running. Right, like that's why they're so
Hard to
useful.
kill, Joseph. Hard to kill.
Yeah, but like it just generally spit. Like I mean, I'm sure Gallows and Anderson were interested anyway, but them being an option for them to work here before Japan is very useful. Impact's benefiting from the fact that they're the other promotions still running during this insane time that we're still living in. So, yes, I am intrigued. My biggest question is, will they be able to keep the shine on the right guys here? I don't expect them to make Brian Myers a world champion or any of that, but will they be able to keep EC3, the Good Brothers, Motor City? Will they still feel like stars, you know, relatively speaking, in 6 months? One of Impact's biggest issues is they could sign anyone, and within a few months, they would appear to just be like part of the furniture at the Impact Zone. Right? That was always a thing for them. So hopefully this new regime, they can maximise this new talent. Because in fairness, I think they maximise a lot less with some of the guys they've been using. So we'll see.
It's almost a catch-22 for them, because you've got these people who are perceived as former WWE guys. I mean, Eric Young is just a TNA guy to me, and even Gallows and Anderson, they're not really WWE guys. Hawkins and Heath Slater, certainly more WWE guys. So if you push them, it's like, oh, you're just pushing WWE rejects. So it's tough to, you got to find a balance of not pushing them too strong, but at the same time, like realizing they're your talent now and not worrying about what they did in the past, because that's clearly a WWE issue, is they don't realize that this is their talent. This was the problem with the Invasion. It's like, oh, these WCW guys, we're not going to push them. The thing with Impact as well is like they don't have a ton like pinpoint guys of, all right, this is your next star. Ace Austin is probably that guy. He's very young, very talented, good look and everything. But after him, it's like Semi Callahan, like Eddie Edwards has been around for a while. Chris Bay is great. Willie Mack, I don't know what they're doing with him after the two X Division title losses, but they don't have those guys where you're just like, yeah, this is the guy that you're building towards the future. So to have Gallows, Anderson, Eric Young come in and kind of bridge that a little bit should be beneficial for those guys.
I know people won't like it because of the way his WWE run went. I kind of feel like they have to build around EC3 again. I do. I think all-around talent, he's probably the best shot they have. I would definitely use Carl Anderson as a single some. I think they could do that. I mean, I think Ace Austin's very exciting. I'm with Eddie Edwards winning that match on Sunday, though. I think Eddie Edwards, obviously, yeah, the loyalty and all that stuff, but, like, those younger guys, they've got time, you would hope, in Impact. I don't know. Eddie Edwards is legit good, and I think we all forget sometimes how good he is. Right? Yeah. Like, I understand people are underwhelmed by him winning the belt. I get why. But, man, I don't care how that dude's dressing. Like, his work hasn't dropped off. He still is amazing. So, it's hard. I'm with you. They're lacking, like, a... If we talk basketball, we like to do it now on here, Jeremy, right? We like talking to basketball. Do you remember that sport? Basketball's fun. And
it's back next week. I think it's going to be running while we're on the air.
Yes.
So, we'll just watch basketball instead of do this podcast.
To me, they're going the route of, like, the old Pat Riley play of, like, we're not tanking. We're just going to be competitive. We're not got a championship in us, Jeremy. We haven't got a star player that can lead us to the promised land. But we're not tanking here. We're going to build a competitive team, competitive roster, and that's what they have here. They have a lot of really solid, good, exciting prospects. They certainly haven't got the crown jewel here, from where I'm looking. You know, I'm not talking about the Saudi Arabia pay-per-view. I'm talking about, you know. So it'll be interesting to see how they figure that out. I agree with you. Ace Austin's probably where they're going to eventually get to, but I think I sense they'd want to be patient with that. The issue obviously is it's so hard to be patient because you don't know how long these guys are going to be here, right? Like he could get signed at any point, and I don't know what their contract situation is, but I thought one of the stars of the pay-per-view, so yeah, I'm with you. Chris Bay and Willie Mack had a great pay-per-view match. The Impact match was a little bit alarming in the way that it was presented and laid out. Concerned me a little bit as far as what Willie Mack's future was in Impact. But the Purrazzo Grace match I thought was tremendous.
Yes.
Both of those are great. I mean, I'd heard a lot about the women's division. I sensed the gauntlet match was not the best example.
No, that sucked.
No.
That was awful.
Yeah, it did. I mean, that was an example of, like, our women's division is good, and someone should have said, it's not that good. We don't need to feature all of these women on pay-per-view. It just wasn't... That isn't how it works. You know, like, just use the best talent and put them in a place where they can succeed. Don't just use everyone because you want to show off a division. It didn't work at all. But the title match was very good. So they've got some stuff worth watching for. I mean, there's some stuff on that. Like, if you listen to this, you know that some of the more silly presentation elements are not my thing. So you can imagine there's some stuff on Impact that I roll my eyes at. There's some wacky stuff on that program, certainly. But it's a fun show. And more than anything, it's just a nice story. That everyone was united in being like, hey, good for Impact. You know? I mean, not everyone. There's still definitely some people dunking on poor TNA. But people seem generally happy that they're kind of back on their feet. And this, in fairness to Impact fans, I know it's been like this for a while. I'm not ignorant to that. I'm just saying, for the general wrestling public, I don't know if you'd agree, Jeremy, but to me it sensed that, like, this was the rest of us being like, okay, Impact's fine. You know, like, it was like a sort of a bridge being built. What they'll go to, I have no idea.
Now the thing is just sustaining it, because they had these great pay-per-views, especially last year, when, you know, they were headlining with, like, Lucha Bros and LAX. Like, that was a great feud that produced a lot of great matches. Like, they've had these moments, these great pay-per-views, and then their television is just like, okay, yeah, this isn't that good. Or people just don't tune in after they tune into the pay-per-view. And I think that's almost the toughest issue right now, is it can be good television, but just people might not watch it. And whether, you know, for whatever reason, whether it's pandemic, too much wrestling, whatever it is, but, like, it's tough being that third brand and being on, like, Access TV, getting some momentum, but still being perceived as just that third brand.
100. I thought, as someone that hasn't watched their TV in a long time, it's hard for me to, like, have perspective. But I thought they did a pretty good job of, like, capitalising on the momentum of the pay-per-view while also giving you a hook for next week. You know, like, at least you have stuff to be like, okay, I'm going to come back next week. I know I am. I don't know what the general... It seemed like it had more buzz than usual, Impact. But you're 100% correct. Like, I have seen before their pay-per-views get some hype, and there is no, like, retaining that momentum. Like, it just vanishes as soon as they go back to TV. So I haven't seen enough of their TV to comment on it, but I could see how the presentation at times would be a little bit lifeless. I'll say that. This week it was fine. Hopefully they keep building on that effort.
The other thing tied into Impact is, you know, they signed these people. I guess the big four were EC3, Gallows Anderson, Eric Young. Those are the guys who it seems like are going to be the big stars. And three of those people, EC3's touched on it before, but Eric Young did an interview with Busted Open Radio, and Gallows and Anderson did their Talk and Shop Live, where they discussed their time in WWE and all the stuff they were told and how they couldn't be used and all this stuff. Any takeaways from any of these interviews?
I think the Eric Young situation is simpler, right? Because his statement was very, like, cut and dry, and I agree with it, where he said that if you can't find 5 minutes for me, the system's broke. Eric's right, because he's never been given a character he couldn't get over. The issue is, the reason the system is broke is because there's too many pieces inside it. Like, I'm being not here to vilify WWE, because if I had the Raw roster, I would find a hard time using Eric Young. And that speaks to how many people they need to feature on TV every week that aren't actually over, you know? And like that's, I think very highly of Eric Young. And I agree with him the system's broke. I just don't know if it's for the reason, like to me the reason it's broke is because they sign everyone that they think is of any use. You know, like
Right.
long gone are the days of being like, oh, we could do something with that particular guy, sign him. It's now just, he once took bumps on television, sign him. You know, don't believe me, look at, just, you know what I'm talking about. Not Eric Young, other people. Eric Young's 100% right that on a 3-hour program, he should have sometimes do some kind of wacky character. Not a top heel necessarily, but like, he can do a lot of stuff and get over. So he's right, it's just, it's not news to me because they've got too many guys, basically. The Gallows and Anderson thing, it was further evidence of something that I think is a building case of like, there's a lot of weird push and pull in the office of WWE, the front office, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, it seems to me there's a lot of different agendas and a lot of different ideas as to where they should be going. And as I have this is not the scoop, unlike everything else I say here, this is not a scoop, Jeremy. But it seems to me the issue is that the head honcho is at a point in his life where he's a lot easier to sway than usual when it creates weird things that I sense he doesn't want happening because he's just got a lot of different voices. I mean, from the outside looking in, when you just read the amount of people that are involved now, it seems like a lot. And when you see some of the decisions like Bruce being back and the next thing Bruce is running both shows, I don't know, man, it seems awful tumultuous to me. As a fan, I can speak as a fan and say it was very, like, refreshing to hear Gallows and Anderson talk about it. Because while it was frustrating that they missed out on that stuff, like, the amount of times fans complained about what they were doing on TV and was told, don't complain, bro, like, they love it, they're making money. They wanted to quit within a year, guys. Like, allow fans to react to when their favourite wrestlers do lame stuff. Because a lot of the time, the wrestlers also think it's lame, okay? And, like, we're here waiting now to have fun in the Impact territory of Gallows and Anderson. So that was my main takeaway for that one. That was just refreshing for me as a fan.
I really enjoyed the Gallows and Anderson interview because they were very candid about things. And you can tell, like, they went there, they made their reasons very clear. They got a great offer. They, Anderson has a wife and kids. Gallows was just getting married. Like, they got a great offer. And so they took that. And, bless them. They thought it seemed like they were going to be used a little bit more. Obviously, I think a lot of people, when they go to WWE, they're thinking, oh, that's not going to happen to me. Like, they'll use me correctly.
Yeah.
And it's rarely the case. It's rarely the case that works out. Yeah, they signed in, like, April and wanted to quit in October. And it's like, all right, yeah, something went wrong in those few months. And then, they still re-signed. Look, they could have left, and they said they regretted not leaving. They could have left. They had the AEW offer. It seemed like an angle already shot out for the first episode of Dynamite. I mean, how much better would that first episode? It was a great episode of Dynamite. But if you have the Gallows Anderson Bullet Club thing instead of Jake Hagar standing tall at the very end. So like they had the offer, but WWE just kept upping it, and they took the money. That was their decision. I don't feel bad for them in that regard. I do feel bad of what happened after that. But I thought that was a very refreshing interview, like you said. And then the Eric Young stuff, I'm with you, is just they have too much talent. Like, they should have a spot for Eric Young. I agree. They should have a spot for a lot of guys that they just don't have a spot for, they don't use. And it's because they have talent that is worth using. Like, if you're going to say, all right, well, we got to book this 10-minute Ricochet match that's going to cut this 5-minute Eric Young segment. It's like, all right, is this like a bad thing? A 10-minute Ricochet match? Like, is this bad?
Exactly. Yeah.
But they should still have a spot for these people, or just don't sign this many people. And this will be up by the time everybody listens to this. Eric Young also talked about doing like producers work for WWE, and he did it for 16 weeks. And he's like, it's just a thankless job. Like, you're just trying to cater everything to what Vince wants, and in the end, it doesn't really matter. Like, you're just going back and forth, relaying messages. Oh, Vince says this, the talent says this. Like, it doesn't seem like producers in WWE are like actual producers of lay out the match and stuff. It's just like, okay, what's your idea? Let me take it to Vince. Like, you said that Vince has too many. There's a lot of push and pull. I think at the top that's true. it's also might be true like at the bottom to where you have all these writers, you have all these producers
Yes.
and agents, and messages just get lost in all of
Yes.
this. And it would just be easier if it's just like a talent to talent thing with Vince. Let the talent do what you want. Have actual producers who are not just, all right, Vince said this, you said this. Like, no, here's what we're actually doing, and work off of that. Because Gallows and Anderson, they said it, and I thought, this is right. Everyone says, oh, go into Vince's office, talk to him. And they're just like, Vince doesn't want to talk to us dorks. Like, yeah, he wants to talk to AJ because he's going to push AJ. He don't want to talk. He doesn't know what we're doing. He didn't remember that we were the club 2 years ago. He didn't remember this stuff. And I feel bad for a lot of these guys because these are not isolated stories. Everyone who leaves WWE has a very similar story. And it rarely comes off bitter. It more just comes off of like, this sucks, but this is how it runs over there.
The Vince thing is like very hard, I find, to like publicly. When we discuss this stuff, I never want to be kind of the guy who's like screaming down the mic, like the guy, he's finished, get NXT, and I'm not that guy, you know that. But I find it hard to kind of, I don't want to frame him a certain way, but we also have to be logical about what he is. And like, he is a guy in his mid-70s that's been hit over the head a lot. Like, that's just the reality of the situations. When I say he's easily swayed, I don't mean that he doesn't know what he wants. I could see him at that very moment when Gallows pitched that angle with Big Cass being like, yeah, great angle. And by 2 days later, he's like, let's just do that angle with Seth Rollins. Like, I don't know if I don't want to frame him as a guy that's out of his mind. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm just saying, I wonder almost if the reason no one ever says anything about Vince is because like, he's generally probably agreeable at this point in his life until he actually comes time to create the stuff. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I could see like an Eric Young talking to Vince and like, man, that went awesome. I think he said this, right? He was like, I had a meeting with Vince, it went great. They never did anything with me. Like, I just think there's a lot going on in the guy's head that probably shouldn't be going on considering where he's at in his life. So it's hard. The one thing about Gallows and Anderson that was interesting too was that like, I think a lot of fans just look at them as like a team. It's very obvious when you listen to that interview what parts of a team they make up.
Yeah.
Because Carl Anderson, like, it's very odd to say this, but in wrestling, his career has been kind of sheltered because he got the big break in New Japan and he was like a top guy in New Japan pretty quick, So like hearing him talk about what it meant to him to get fired was actually pretty amazing by comparison to Gallows, who was like, yeah, I had a territory running within an hour. So I thought that was fun because I think a lot of fans missed that. Like, they actually had very different careers. One guy has been everywhere and had a lot of unsuccessful runs, a lot of them not for any fault of his own. And the other guy really, like, on the major stage, had just, like, one smash hit of a run, got offered loads of money, and then went where he went. Like, I think he said at one point, Anderson was like, everyone says you'll get lost in the shuffle. He said what you said. He was like, but to me, it's like, that's not going to happen to me. And he goes, and then here I was lost in the shuffle. Like, it was interesting that Gallows never wanted to go because I sensed that was his kind of, he knew, right? Like, deep down, this is going to be a tough sell. So it's always good when you get that level of insight. Like, anyone that's just read the quotes is like, oh, more bitter guys, please watch the interview because they couldn't come across less bitter, right? They were they took so many shots at themselves and their decision. It's worth just watching. It gives a lot of insight into their run. And the Heyman thing, by the way, I think people have I think they're very aware that Vince is the one that fired them. I think their issues with Paul Heyman are a lot more than just that moment. Would you agree? Like, I could be wrong.
Oh, yeah. So AJ he was on his Twitch stream last night as well, and he offered more his side, but obviously he was on the side of Gallows and Anderson, but, his perspective, and he was there talking to all these people. All of them, I think even Anderson and Gallows, but AJ certainly did on his stream. They're like, yes, we understand Vince made this decision. Yeah. It was a Vince call. According to them, it was like Gallows and Anderson were never thought of until Heyman apparently went to him and was like, yeah, get rid of these guys. And then that put the thought in Vince's mind. And like you said, like, it seems like he's easily swayed. He doesn't know maybe what changes and stuff. So it put the thought in his mind, and he probably didn't think about it. Honestly, he saw him on his little, like he saw him on his list of like, oh yeah, okay, my executive director is telling me fire these guys. Probably just listen to it. Like, sure, why not? So like that's honestly probably what happened there. And then the issue with Heyman clearly stems back further where, all right, we're going to put you together. Now go put over Ricochet and Cedric. Okay, when are we getting our shine back and everything? And then it just became they were lied to about a bunch of different stuff. So it was clearly, I think all three of them understand, yes, Vince made the final decision.
Mm-hmm.
Their heat with Heyman is that he didn't defend him. He lied to him about defending him. And he was the one who seemingly put the thought into Vince's brain that they needed to be fired.
Yeah, and even beyond that, like, and I have a lot of admiration for Paul Heyman, but the reason they were even a fall, even if he didn't put them on the list, is because of the way they were booked on Raw. They were made into losers on Raw. You see what I'm saying? So, like, if they were top team with the belts, they would never have been put on the list by anyone. So, the issue with that is, I love Goes and Anderson, but that is very in line with Heyman's general philosophy. Like, I could 100% see him not seeing a lot of value in the team at their age, at this point in their career. He's always been the guy that, for want of a better term, he likes the younger talent that is kind of naive. And I don't mean that in like a dismissive way. I just mean he likes guys he can shape and mould, basically. And as I just said, there's not a lot of chance you're going to be able to do that with Luke Gallows, who has legitimately now played about 12 characters in wrestling. So it was very in line with Heyman's philosophy, and like, even as someone that enjoys Heyman, we have to be realistic about his reputation, right? Like, this is nothing new. This is not like an outlier. Oh wow, someone doesn't like Paul Heyman. He is what he is, okay? And he's always up to stuff, and it was just, honestly, it was kind of like old school to hear guys fresh off their run actually just actively burying guys that are in the office. I guess he's not in the office anymore. But the Triple H stuff too. That's the other thing I think people missed is, like, yeah, it's easy to go after Heyman because he's been fired. I get that. But let's not act like they were protecting Triple H. The stories they told about him made him look terrible in a lot of ways. Even if they kind of didn't go after him, man, he didn't come out of it looking great, right?
It was the same thing when FTR did all their interviews. Is like, oh, you're Triple H's guys, you're Triple H. Like, Triple H talked to these guys. He seemed like he did the hiring of the push for these guys at the very least. I'm sure Vince McMahon, like Carl Anderson said, he doesn't know I was in the G1 final. And that's why he's like, oh man, that Carl Anderson guy, just saw his G1 match. Got to get him in there. I'm sure it's Triple H being like, yeah, we got to get these guys and all this stuff. So they look at Triple H, the Papa Paul figure. Like, this guy's going to take care of me. And like, I'm sure Triple H has these intentions. It just... it doesn't work out for whatever reason. But this is why, Vince has got to double check with people. But maybe he did double check with Triple H and Triple H just didn't think about it. Who knows? But they weren't protecting him at all. The quote about like, oh, I'm thinking of your kids. And exactly. I don't know, like that quote was like, yeah, dude, you suck for this quote. Like, you said this to these people and then they got released less than a year later. Like, couldn't you do something about that? Like, if you have this position, again, maybe Triple H didn't know, but it wasn't the best light. And then their appearance on Being the Elite, where they're like, I know two Pauls in that company. Neither of them have lied to me. Like, yeah, they're burying him as well. The Paul Heyman stuff. AJ Styles said that last night. He's like, no one likes this dude. Like, he throws everybody on the bus. Like, you can't find anybody that likes this dude. And, I mean, Heyman's made his enemies, and he's got a lot of supporters, too, though. You're right. It is a lot of young talent because he could just tell them, like, I'm trying to push you, I'm trying to push you, I'm trying to push you. And, like, it shows on television. He clearly wanted to use these younger guys. And then, whatever happens. But, yeah, Gallows, Anderson, and especially Styles, they're in a position to be like, yeah, we're not doing this. Sorry.
But the thing is, I have to be fair to Heyman in saying that if his take was the club's kind of opportunity to be a big deal was gone because of the way it went the first time round, let's just use them to get over new guys. Like, as much as I like them guys, I get that in terms of logic. I can't argue with that. It's obviously, though, it's clear there's a lot more going on than just the way they booked the race, the way that he would frame things, the stack pin deal with Drew was certainly something. But yeah, anyway, I'm glad we got into this in detail, but if you haven't listened to it, it's worth listening to because it is very insightful into how insane the World Wrestling Federation currently is. It's a wild time, Jeremy. It certainly feels like something odd is oncoming, but I don't know how it can get any weirder at this point. It's a strange time.
It will. I'm sure it'll get much weirder. I don't know how either, but I trust that it will. I think SummerSlam, I'm a little bit worried about SummerSlam because they wanted...
Why?
like they wanted to do like, WrestleMania. They couldn't really control. That was like 2 weeks out from everything, maybe 3 weeks out, and it's like, all right, what are we gonna do here? Like they've been stewing on this SummerSlam stuff. They were kind of like promised, not promised, but like I'm sure they thought fans will be back by SummerSlam. This won't be an issue. They see sports coming back as well. The ratings have fallen off since all of this. I think SummerSlam, they're just going to do some really dumb stuff, and I can't wait for it. I really cannot wait for it.
Man, if he gets dumber, I don't know what we're going to do on this podcast, man. I thought Eye for an Eye was about our peak, so look, I'm open for anything at this point.
One thing we are going to do is, after last week when we introduced this segment and said, not a lot going on in wrestling, we're going to talk about some old retro stuff because we want to fill time with stuff we enjoy. And sorry, folks, these Raw and SmackDown shows, not very enjoyable right now. And then this week, it's like Wrestling World just blows up, which is great, gave us plenty to talk about. But we did introduce a new segment last week where we do little wax nostalgia a little bit, and I picked the match Samoa Joe against Scott Steiner from TNA Slammiversary 2006. Joe, what were your thoughts on this match and the gloriousness of TNA in 2006?
Before I get to this match, I was trying to find where the match was, and I came across a Sting promo that I would like to recap on the podcast.
Okay.
Sting was very excited because he said, tonight is the very first King of the Mountain match. Jeremy, I'm here to tell you this was the third King of the Mountain match. Sting apparently, I don't know how this was a thing that Sting thought was happening. He convinced himself it was a fresh new match. I don't know.
Maybe it was his first King of the Mountain match.
Maybe. I'll give him that much. He also produced a great quote I would like to be under my name moving forward. He said, after 20 years of wrestling, I can multitask. The Stinger can multitask. Can you argue with that? It took him 20 years, he can multitask.
Yeah, he does this and he does that, Joe. He was multitasking a long time ago.
True, you're right. That was wonderful. This whole weird presentation of like a mishmash of guys that were like indie stars and then just Sting and Scott Steiner and like Kurt Angle is insane. It's bonkers. Kurt's not around at this time, I think. I think he's about to come in. But did you pick up at the Scott Steiner promo? Is that where you started?
Oh, yes. I started with the Scott Steiner promo. Did you watch this promo? This was...
I have big questions.
I transcribed this promo. I do enough transcribing as it is for news writing. I transcribed this promo, Joseph. This promo was just peak, absolute peak Scott Steiner.
Yes. What is the thing where he's like offended that Joe is called Samoa Joe? Why is this thing?
His name is Sloppy Joe.
Yeah, and he's like, in the video page, he's like, I hate that you call yourself that. You're half-breed.
Yeah.
What is he talking about?
He's not full Samoan. He's not full Samoan. So it shouldn't
be... Why would that upset him?
Because, he goes back with all these Samoans. Afa, Sika, all the Samoans, True. Yokozuna, all the Samoans that Scott Steiner has wrestled with throughout his career. He's like, this man is not full Samoan. I know real Samoans. So you calling yourself Samoa Joe, no, it's Samoa Sloppy Joe. That's your name. I got veins. You don't know nothing about that.
I've got that noted. One of my notes, by the way, like, has Scott Steiner actually defeated Triple H?
Yes, I looked this up. Yes.
Is it true?
Yes. The John Cena one was the one I was like, there's no way Scott Steiner wrestled John Cena. Like, Cena was just coming up, or Steiner was when Steiner was the star, and then Cena kind of became the star when Steiner was in like the tag team. They wrestled one match, Joe, like a house show, a SmackDown house show.
Wow.
And Scott Steiner won. I looked this up to see if he beat these people was being true, and it is. Amazingly, it is.
So I don't want to step on your bit. Are you going to read this promo, or have you just noted it for the sake of history? I don't want to step on your bit here.
Oh, I can read the promo. I mean,
you don't have to. I just didn't know that was your intention.
I planned on reading the promo.
Please read the promo.
I have props as well.
Oh my goodness! Okay, I want to see that.
I can't do it as well as Scott Steiner. I don't even know why I'm trying. Okay. Jeremy Borash introduces him and whatever. Samoa Joe's been undefeated by a year. His undefeated streak, he debuted. It's Slammiversary 05, undefeated X Division champion. Okay. Scott Steiner goes, "Don't you call Jesus, let me see correctly.
Full start.
Yes. Don't you call that half-breed Samoa Joe. You call him what he is. That fat bastard, you call him Sloppy Joe. Sloppy Joe, you're going to find out why I have the reputation that I do. I've beaten everybody from Sting to Goldberg to Triple H to Batista to John Cena. I've beaten them all. Who have you beaten, Mr. X Division? Tonight, I know there's some rednecks out in the crowd who are fat, just like you, Joe, who want you to beat me. There's rednecks watching TV right now with fat oozing over their belt line that want you to beat me. I know there's TNA management that wants you to beat me because I don't follow their rules, and they're trying to sell this DVD called The Best of Samoa Joe Unstoppable. Well, this crap is unsellable. Samoa Joe, I'm going to show you why they call me Big Papa Pump. Tonight, Samoa Joe, your win streak ends. Tonight, I kill you.
Okay, I made a note of the last line, and I cannot believe that is the true conclusion of all of this is, tonight, this is one sentence after that, tonight your win streak ends, tonight I kill you. Wow. And then we do a cut to a video package in which Samoa Joe appears to be doing like a UFC countdown bit, and he's like really serious, talking about a fight, and Scott Steiner is just like, he's fat, fat. He's pointing at his arm, and what is the exact quote, Jeremy? Please
He says, I have veins. You know nothing about that.
He's like, you see this? That's a vein. And then it will just cut back to Samoa Joe. He's like, I'm going to choke him out. I'm going to throw some low kicks. So he's just dead. Oh, man. It was a good video package. Like, it actually got me interested in the match. Because when you read this to me, I didn't realise that it was being like framed as like a dream match, which is what I think they were going for. Because Scott was like new enough here that I guess people were excited. I don't know. Probably not, right? It didn't seem like it. But
I think people were excited.
Yeah, like it wasn't the version of Scott where he'd been there for 4 years, basically what I'm saying. So I didn't realise that until I watched this. But the walking like human cartoon of Scott Steiner, contrasted with Samoa Joe just being like straight-laced shoot fighter, was amazing. And I have to say, like, when we're about getting this match, I have a few notes from the match. I think we take for granted, Jeremy, how absurd Scott Steiner looked at this time. And he's like, he is like ridiculous looking, isn't he? He's humongous. He's so big, it's actually kind of scary, I must say. But this match is, like, I don't know how many notes you have on the match, Jeremy, but poor Scott, man. He was trying. There's not a lot here at this point, was there?
No. He was certainly trying. Joe, if this is like your introduction to Samoa Joe, you probably didn't walk away thinking, what's the big deal about this guy? Because he'd been killing it for a year in the X Division with all these great matches. And then he had to just slow down to Scott Steiner's pace. And it wasn't working for 2005 Samoa Joe, who could like really go. I'd like to see Samoa Joe today against 2005 Scott Steiner. It'd be a great match, but this version, or 2005 Samoa Joe against like 90 Scott Steiner, like 92 Scott Steiner, would probably be great. But this, just a big styles clash that they could not get around.
It was weird because they wanted to tell the story of like Joe couldn't out wrestle Scott Steiner. And I was like, I don't know if that was the way to go here, guys. You know, like he was taking him down, and then they did a spot where Joe like spat at him, and it was like, oh, Joe's baiting him into a brawl, and I was like, wait, Joe can't just wrestle. Scott Steiner's like stumbling around the ring. Like, I'm sure that Scott's badass. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not questioning the man's toughness, but I wouldn't have had the undefeatable Destroyer getting like technical wrestled by Scott Steiner, just personally.
The match wasn't good. And Scott Steiner tried to like lift Samoa Joe. They did the corner spot where they do like the corner rock bottom. That looked really bad. I don't think Steiner was taking I remember watching this at the time, and when like Joe won with that power slam, it was just like this huge shock because Joe uses that move all the time and just never won with the power slam. And looking back, it's like, oh yeah, Scott wasn't taking that muscle buster. He just wasn't going to take that.
Why didn't they just do the choke? Why did Scott just stand up when he was in the choke? I'd finished watching. I was like, it's done. And he just stood up in the middle of the... What happened there? Why did they have to do a power slam finish when he could have just got choked out? I didn't understand.
Scott he wasn't passing out, tapping out. He's like, yeah, sure, I'll take your power slam, and that'll be the finish. I ain't tapping out for this move, though.
I have a range of questions about the announce team. But I have a couple here to get into. First, I did want to say, The match is fine when Joe is doing all the offense and Scott is just like teetering, selling. Because Joe's offense is still so great at this time and he's so like quick, even against Scott Steiner, that it's like, wow. The issue with the match is when poor Scott is like, I don't even know if you can call it a heat segment because they're cold. These things are cold, man. He's like wandering around. He's looking at the crowd. Mike Tna at one point suggests that Don West has felt Scott's wrath on many occasions. What? When did Scott Steiner and Don... We need to find these. We did the wrong thing here. We should have watched the Don West Scott Steiner program that apparently happened. I have no idea what this is in reference to. Don West says at one point, and this is mean on my part, someone who misspeaks often, I shouldn't poke fun. But Don West at one point says, you don't have to like him, but you love him. And I interrupted. What he was intending to say was you have to love his work. Didn't get there. Didn't get that far, did he fell apart. By the way, when Scott Steiner powerbombed Samoa Joe, I was like, I don't know how I convinced myself 14 years in the future that Joe's career was about to end, but I did. I was like, it's over. It's finished. Done.
I was shocked. I didn't remember that powerbomb spot at all, but bless Joe for taking that. It was refreshing to hear Mike Tna and Don West. Like, very, very refreshing. I know people wanted to dunk on Don West at the time, and like his commentary doesn't age like greatly or anything, but Don West understood what he was there to do, and he did it very well. And you can't deny the man's passion on that. Was he a great commentator? No, but you know, he was the second to Mike Tna, and Mike Tna was still very good even at this time. But Don West, it was legitimately refreshing outside of the, you know, it was a 2-man booth. I'm sick of these 3-man booth. That's all nonsense. But the WWE stuff, which is all just I've learned to tune that out because it's the same stuff you've heard for 20 years now. Yes,
Mike Tna does have a gem. I don't want to leave him out of this discussion. Scott Steiner at one point throws Joe out the ring. They're like brawl on the outside, and Mike Tna says, they're going to take it out to the streets here. Amazing, man. Because they literally just left the ring. And that leads to that weird time. I don't know if you could help me with this. This match wasn't no DQ, right?
No.
Why, when Scott Steiner hit Samoa Joe over the head with a steel chair, did Rudy Charles say, you have 10 seconds to get back in the ring, both of you? Why did Samoa Joe get punished for getting hit in the head with a steel chair?
I think it was a thing of, like, relaxed rules type of deal. And then the referee, because he's like, okay, you know, I'm fed up with this outside the ring brawling. Give him 10 seconds or I'm throwing this out. Yeah, Samoa Joe was unfortunately punished for this because, you know, he just got hit in the head with a chair. Now it's like, get in the ring, dude. Like, Joe didn't do anything wrong. But those are the breaks in wrestling, Joseph. Those are the breaks.
But they played it like it was like a double down. Like, Scott hit him in the head with a chair and fell over himself. And the ref was like, what? It was weird. By the way, before the finish, so they were going for the spot where like Scott gets goozled on the top rope, and oh my,
that was
brother.
Bad.
Scott just landed on his feet and was like, okay. It was. I must admit, like, as much as I find the Scott stuff to be fun, the promos are hilarious. It kind of bummed me out because this is 14 years ago, and I was like, the craziest thing is this is probably the best match Scott Steiner could possibly have in 2006. Like, just because it's almost possible, this is about as good as Scott was getting at that time. And it's just a shame because he was so great in his prime, you know?
He did the top rope Hurricane Rana at one point, like early in his TNA run. And for some reason I thought it was this match, but it wasn't. But I do think he did it in a match against Samoa Joe.
I hope so. He did it a few times, I think, as he went on in the run. He had a match with Kurt Angle that was like all-time bad. To the point where Kurt Angle, after winning the match, was enraged at how bad of a match he just had. But the thing with Scott is he always tried his best, didn't he?
Yeah.
Some of the guys go to TNA and like they brother around. Like Booker T. Look, Booker, if you watch the show, I'm sorry. You did not take the total non-stop action very seriously, pal. Scott Steiner never had that issue. He nearly killed Joe 4 times this match with suplexes. I wouldn't say it's a terrible match. It's almost. It isn't bad enough for me to find it hilarious. It's just kind of a bummer, right? Watching Scott kind of stumble around and try to have a good match and foul. It's a shame.
I picked this match because, one, I didn't remember it. I didn't remember if it was like all-time bad, or I actually thought like it was decent, like passable,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I picked it. I was like, all right, what does my memory tell me about this? But really, I just wanted the promo and the
That's fine.
video package because I knew we would watch that. By the way, I don't know if you caught that Easter egg when I held up the DVD. One,
Unstoppable.
yeah, one, I had it backwards, just like Scott Steiner did when he held it up. Two, it was UFC Unstoppable. I don't
Yes,
have the
yeah.
actual Samoa Joe Unstoppable DVD, but I searched through, I spent like 10 minutes searching through my DVD pile to that just for this bit that no one probably got, and that's why I explained it, because I wanted the recognition for it.
People are watching this channel. Like, these guys have put more effort into this one match of the week than they have 7 months to show. Speaking of such, are you ready for my pick for next week?
Yes, you told me it's going to be absurd, and so I'm very excited.
Firstly, I have to come clean. I picked this match thinking it would be like on the date that we reviewed it. This match took place on July 23rd, 1989, which is this week's show. So it will actually have no relevance in terms of timing at all. However, it is topical. Because our friend
The Big Show.
and the Good Brothers ally, Paul E. Dangerously, takes on James E. Cornette in a tuxedo match at
Oh
Great
my
American Bash
God.
1989. And that, Jeremy Lambert, is next week's match of the week.
Oh, I was not expecting this. I don't know what I was expecting. I was not expecting Jim Cornette against Paul Heyman in a tuxedo match to be your pick.
Paul's in the news. I didn't know if we were going to talk about him for too long on the podcast, so I thought the best way to reference Paul's latest headlines would just be to have a match in which he has a tuxedo match with Jim Cornette. So the match is only 6 minutes, Jeremy. So I thought I'd... It's been a stressful week, right? I've had a lot to cover. I've changed teams 3 times. In preparation for my next move, I'm going to give us a shorter match, and we can get into the hilarious issue of Paul E. and James E. being the same person without realising it and hating each other at the same time. So that should be fun. I don't know if it will be quite as good as Samoa Joe and Scott Steiner, but actually, no, I've just thought about it. There will be no Don West.
Yeah.
Maybe this should be the Don West match. Maybe that's what we should do. We'll think about it. So that's a production meeting for another time. That is your match for next week.
All right. I can't wait to watch this. 6 minutes. It'll breeze by. We're not picking long matches on this thing.
No, we're not.
All right, folks. That'll do it for today's show. Let's do the 20-minute outro now after the hour and 20-minute show. This past Tuesday, we reviewed Money Plane. I think it's our best movie review to date. Much like today, where I did a promo reenactment, I did a scene reenactment for Money Plane. What a great show. It broke the rating scale. Watch the movie, watch the show.
Yes, that was a special one. I'm going to try and keep this outro short. But yes, Jeremy now reads full scripts out on the show as his new thing, and I'm all for it. It's great fun. But yeah, continue.
I have to transcribe so much during the week that it just feels like, yeah, sure, I might as well transcribe this as well for a bit on the podcast. We have the TW series on Saturday. We're on the road to King of Kings. I believe it's the go-home show for King of Kings this week, so big show on the TW series. Next Tuesday, we are reviewing They Live. That was Joseph's pick. Mm-hmm. And then next Thursday, we'll be back talking everything that is happening in the wrestling world. You can follow Joe on Twitter at JoeHulbert5. He's got 3 features next week. Not sure what they are, but he's definitely doing 3 of them. Joe, anything else?
Nothing else. Support me in my 60-minute Ironman match with Sex Ferguson. It is pre-taped, I'm aware, but still, pretend it is live and support me on that. I don't have anything else. I will never write again because I'm retired again, Terry Funk. Actually, no, I do have something. SummerSlam features, your suggestions. I have like 4 names right now. So if you can get names in, you would like me to cover, you expect will be on the biggest party / blockbuster of the summer, tell me now, I'll try to get an article done. That's
Apollo Crews. I expect him to be on the program.
Tough out. It's tough out. I watched almost every Apollo Crews match ever. Did you realise this? I did all of that only for him to not even appear in a segment. Poor man. I hope he's okay. I was concerned about it, but then he did like a week of media for the match, and I was like, okay, I'm fine. I can rest easy. Could not rest easy after all. Very sad.
You can follow me on Twitter at JeremyLambert88. I'll be reviewing SmackDown with Sean on Friday. You can listen to that if you want. If SmackDown is your thing, go for it. Otherwise,